Welcome to the New Economy. What's next? My guest today is Altamis Misick Russell, and she is a accountant and dealing especially with small business accounting. So we're going to talk about why it's important to keep your books as a business person. So stay tuned.
Now, I don't know you, I can't even see you, but here's what I know about you, that you have something special. You have greatness within you. I can say that to you based upon my own experience. If anybody told me just getting started, so I don't know what you do, you might be selling a product, a service, you might have some skill or knowledge that people need right now. I don't know what you do, but here's what I know. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great.
Nothing is free. Nothing is easy. You have to think different. You have to do different.
Do not try to draw a straight line. Find the rocket ship that matters to you. And you know what really matters here is if you try to plan out your career, anyone who thinks you know exactly what you're going to do for the next 30 years, here's what I promise, or 40 years, it's going to be boring and you're going to miss all the good stuff because all the good stuff hasn't been invented yet.
Miss Misick Russell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So accounting, why? Why is it important?
Accounting it's important for reporting. It's important for making business decisions. Those are your two basic points right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's those that reporting is to the management as well as the ownership of a company, correct? So that they can, like you say, make the decisions of how to run the business, how to make adjustments, how to steer the ship.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So why don't you, without getting, we like to keep things like 30,000 square feet here, but why don't we talk a little bit about the some of the common things that you're going to see in the accounting? Like, what are the common sheets that you would see?
So some of but basically I can talk more about like some of the best practice first. And the first thing I would usually say to my clients is to keep your personal and your business finances completely separate.
Absolutely.
So basically ensure that your employees and yourself are not buying things for personal use with the business funds. If funds are not accurately allocated, it will cause cash flow issues, right? Complications with VAT filings. You can have auditing complications. And a small micro business that I specialize in, the owner will basically handle most of the purchases and payments themselves. So even though they might be the only person accessing the funds, they should always keep their personal and business finances completely separate. And how I recommend that they do this is open up separate bank accounts and credit and debit cards for the business. This will help them basically to understand if they're actually being profitable or not. So I recommend they pay themselves a salary, right? And pay their personal expenses from their salary, such as their mortgage, their home light bill, kids' school fees from their salary, and just basically keep your personal and your business expenses.
Yeah, and what that does is that allows you to, as you were saying, you gently touched on, you can actually see whether or not your business is doing well. So many people unknowingly pour more money into their business because it's part of their personal finances, or they'll mix, say, like rent that they're collecting from an apartment in there, and so you think your business is pretty well when it's actually not.
Right, exactly. So it's important that you keep it separate so that you can know if you have different businesses or you have different sources of revenue, and you putting that money in there, you don't really know if that business is profitable or not. So if you keep the business separate, you're in business to make money. And if you keep your records separate and that business is not profitable, then you can make a decision to say, hey, I need to either close this business down, or I need to get, some partners. I need to get additional investment for this particular business. But keeping it separate is very important.
Or even saying that I need to spend more money marketing in the newspaper versus on the radio because
Right.
I'm getting better, more revenue from that medium, and you'll be able
Right.
to make all very very nuanced decisions associated with your business. Why don't you talk a little bit about like I say, there are three basic statements, and how those help you to make different decisions.
Okay, so you have your balance sheet, you have your income statement, and then you have your statement of cash flow. And those are your three basic statements. So your balance sheet really tells you what you're worth. Okay, it tells you in terms of how much assets you have in cash, whether it's in fixed assets like your furniture, your vehicle, your building. It tells you what is owed to you, okay, with your accounts receivable. So if someone owes you money, that's an asset to you, okay? And then it tells you what your liabilities are. That is what you owe to others. Okay, that would be your owe to your vendors, or maybe your national insurance payment. And then the net of that would be the value of your business. So whatever
Yes.
your assets are, minus your liabilities, is the net worth of your business. And that is always at a point in time. That is always continuous. With your income statement is at a point in time. Okay, your income statement represents that, either that week, that month, that day, that year. And what the income statement shows is if you're profitable within that period. So it shows you all of your revenue, whether you have one stream of revenue or several. You would usually break it out. And then you would also account for your expenses or the cost of goods sold if you have inventory. And the net of that, okay, where you have income minus your expenses, will tell you if you have a net profit or a net loss.
Now,
Okay.
there's a distinction, right, between the P&L or the income statement and the cash flow statement. And the income statement sometimes includes sales that you haven't collected money on, correct?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's where
So
that's where the cash flow statement comes in.
right. So that's called accrued based accounting.
Yes.
Where you account for revenue that you would not have collected as yet. And then what the cash flow statement does, it pulls out those items, those non-cash items, to give you your true cash position.
Yes.
So that's what the statement of cash flow is about.
Yeah, because it's nice to have booked the sale, but unless the money comes in, the business can go out of business if it runs out of
Yes.
cash. And so it's
Yes.
important to keep track of both of those things separately. And that's what
Yes.
those statements do.
Yes, and that's one of the other areas that I wanted to speak to in terms of best practice. Ensuring that you are on top of your collection of your accounts receivable,
Yes.
because it doesn't make sense, all right, to um, create invoices and send them out, and you're not collecting your flow in your business. So it's very important. It's very important that you stay on top of your accounts receivable as well as your accounts payable, because your accounts payable, again, you don't want to be in the on the bad side of your
No,
vendors.
no,
You want
too
to
many
make
of your
sure that
creditors,
your
you're
vendors,
gonna run into
yes, yes,
to issues of all kinds of issues when you owe people money around town. So it's
oh
important
yeah,
to
definitely.
yeah it's
And taxes as well, your VAT and your national
oh yeah,
insurance.
absolutely.
All of these are part of your payables. You want to stay on top of those and make sure that. So it's important that you collect that accounts receivable to ensure that you're able to meet your obligations.
Yeah, it's you really can. You don't have to be an accountant. I'm not an accountant by training, but you do, if you're going to be in business at a certain level, learn how to read these statements and know what they mean, and know that these numbers mean something for your business. It's not rocket
Yes.
science. It is a way of looking at a business, and that is very important for you to know if you're going to grow beyond just a small venture, because otherwise you
Right.
wouldn't be able to keep all of those numbers in your head. No one can.
Exactly. It's important. It's important that learn the basic financial statements that we just spoke about. You may not, again, like you say, be an accountant, or you may not even can afford the services of accountants, but you have softwares that can assist you out there, like your QuickBooks. You even have some free softwares. I'm not an advocate for any particular software,
Well, we'll
but
get back to the technology in a bit.
yeah.
Let's shift tracks a little bit. Tracks, and how did you get into accounting? And if you could go over a little bit some of your background.
Okay, that's no problem. So I have always loved math when I was in high school, and even though I majored in science, right, focusing on physics and chemistry, somehow I was introduced to the business world when I was in high school by my first mentor, Mr. Roger Pinder, of the former Pine Springs Water and Pinder's Beverages in Freeport, Grand Bahama, many, many moons ago. So I met Mr. Pinder when I went to speak to a particular service club meeting, and he knew everything about me. He could tell me all about my leadership activities in and out of school, and how well I was doing in school, and all about my family. I was pleasantly surprised to find out he knew my math teacher, and hence knowing my background. So at 15 years old, he asked me to come and work for him in the summers. And that was my first introduction to business. Mr. Pinder ensured that I was trained in the front office, the back office, the warehouse, every
Wonderful.
facet of business, including management. And basically, his goal was that I would one day either own my business or know how to run a business from the top to the bottom successfully. And so when I entered the College of the Bahamas, it was no other choice for me but to do business and accounting. With accounting, you can work in all areas of the business.
Absolutely,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's one of those fundamental degrees that allows you to, like you say, you can be in any part of the business, and because those statements are how a business is run. You're not getting away from that. Once you go beyond 5, 6 employees, you have to have those in order to grow. And so having an understanding of that is it really is the thing. That must have been a wonderful experience,
It was.
learning it like the Pinder businesses moving of physical goods and customs, and so that would have been a real, okay, this
was
line item
really-
means this amount
Yeah.
of this many crates, this many et cetera, et cetera. So it's
Yes, I literally went into the food stores and literally put the waters and the sodas on the shelves. And when I said he wanted me to have like a real life experience, I went out on the trucks with the guys to do delivery. I worked in accounting, and I spent a couple of weeks with him in the manager's office, learning how to manage the staff and the overall business. So I owe my career path and initial experience to Mr. Roger Pinder. So if he's listening, I just want to publicly thank him for his mentorship and direction in my life.
Well, that's a wonderful story, and I'm glad you could have shared it, because all business people have a story like that. We can't get away from it. We need mentors, and if you are out there now mentoring someone in that, thank you, and continue to do so.
Yeah.
You also, after doing that, I know you did a stint at the port.
Yes.
We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsor. At Arawak X, we understand that for businesses to grow, they need capital to hire staff, buy equipment, and fuel innovative ideas. We support this process by using technology, years of business acumen, and a world-class team to get business the investment they need to get to the next level. If you are a business owner and need between $100,000 and $3 million, contact us today. We will schedule a meeting over the phone or video chat. Get on the path to your dreams. Arawak X. Dream bigger.
All right. Hi, my name is Peter Bridgewater. I'm President and CEO of Open Systems Technologies International. We are a enterprise content management solution provider here in the Bahamas for the past 20 years, and we've worked with a number of government and private institutions to store and capture their information electronically. Well, digital transformation is key to the success of your business or any business, and we have a trained team with over almost 30 years, 40 years of experience in terms of implementing these solutions, and we have a good vendor relationship that would support any implementation here in the Bahamas. So the next steps in your business should be to implement a enterprise content management solution that will enable you to function like in this pandemic, also as a business continuity solution so that you can work in the event of a disaster. And so you can feel free to call us for a free consultation. Our numbers are 242-328-6736, and you can also check us out on the web at www.opensystems-bs.com.
So I've worked in accounting and auditing, like I said, all my career path. I started out at the public treasury actually as a trainee accountant after graduating from the College of the Bahamas. And I worked in civil service, I worked quasi-government, I worked in the private sector, holding positions such as manager, financial controller, literally worked as vice president. I was the assistant financial controller at the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And so I've also had a short stay in regulatory oversight, which is a bit like auditing. I'm Deloitte and Touche trained, so one of the big four accounting firms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a very wide background in terms of the type of organizations, but it has always either been accounting or auditing that I stuck with over the last 22 years.
So all of that has led now for you into your own practice, where you have taken all of that knowledge and best practices and putting that down with small and medium-sized businesses, correct?
Yes. So what I do, I manage my own practice for the last 2 years, providing consulting services. And the services that I provide are based on my background and my experience. And they are not limited to, but I do bookkeeping, I do compilation services, I do short-term projects, reviews and auditing, I do VAT calculations, payroll and inventory services, I do business license certifications, financial projections, business plan. I keep myself busy,
Yes.
I write policy.
Well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about. You just said financial projections, because that's really, really, really important for planning of the future, and and that'll lead nicely into our final segment about the future. But how important is it to be able to take that historical data of your business, to be able to say, okay, I can make these adjustments and project forward into the future? That's really where financial accounting kind of comes in.
Right. So it's actually even important for a startup business. If you're starting a business, it helps you to determine or have an idea if this business is going to be profitable or if it's going to work. And so, and even for companies that are already operating, like you said, take that historical data and kind of project it. And your projections are based on what your expectations are for your company, and you can always adjust up or you can always adjust down. But it's good to have some idea of where you see your company going for the future. And that's what projections are all about.
Yeah, and it's like I say, once you have a basic understanding of accounting, the different statements, how to read them, and you understand how to do projections, you are in like the gold standard of you can start to jam in business. There's not a single business person that is excellent that I've ever met that doesn't have those fundamental skills. And what's really important that I found in my very short life, not my career isn't nearly as long as yours, but is that once you have that fundamentals, then a professional accountant or a professional person can come in and really enhance what you're doing. And so
Yes.
it's not like you replace you once you learn that stuff you have to replace your accounting team. No, someone's always going to have to be there. So why don't you talk about a little bit about some more of the structure that's needed to go from that small mom and pop to the big thing. We earlier on in the show started to talk about the technology. Why don't we go into that?
Okay, so as you know, we're moving to a cashless society, and this is hopeful for business in regards to record keeping. I've had persons, and not all my clients, but I've had persons who literally had invoices and receipts in boxes and in plastic bags,
The
and
cigar box and the shoe box.
yes, yes. And so they would come to you and say, hey, I need 2 years financial statements in 2 weeks. Really? I mean, accountants are not miracle workers. I mean, we would try.
Yeah, that's
We would
that's a
try.
little
But the
much.
good thing is, with us moving towards a cashless society, all your revenues would be recorded in your account because your customers will be purchasing with credits and debit cards. And then you would be purchasing or paying your expenses with a card. And so the bank account will act more or less like a ledger for you. And so it helps accountants, I know, if you were to call me and you were putting all of your cash into the bank, which is a very good practice, right? To record all your revenue and all your expenses. I'm happy to prepare, financial statements for someone like that. But like I said, as we're moving towards a cashless society. And so the question is, will accountants be replaced by technology? And so
And what's the jury answer on that?
I would say, technologies like blockchain and cloud computing are disrupting, right? And they are disrupting and will continue to disrupt classical accounting, but it won't replace accountants. Rather, the accountant's value position will migrate away from that manual transaction entry, compiling reports and number crunching. Instead, we will automatically generate insights into like actionable business initiatives such as risk management plans and flexible and sustainable business models and much more. So in short,
because once you have, it's one thing to have the data, it's the next thing to know what to do with it. And those
right,
are
right,
those that's
right.
I don't want to say it's not a skill anymore. It's almost like an art form at a certain
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I like to say, in that regard, your accountant today will be your strategic advisor tomorrow. So
many
you don't just replace us or get rid of us.
No,
So
no. No, it's
so why
it's
accountants will still be in demand for quite some time, right?
absolutely
But as
it's
accountants, we need to start preparing ourselves to move in sync with the forces that will shape the industry over the next decade. And by doing so, we will promote ourselves to be in a more valued position than ever before. So technology definitely won't replace
well,
accountants.
let's some people confuse. So there's on the business side, and then there's the auditing side. What is the auditing side for my guests? People hear of audits all the time, but they don't, what is that?
Okay, so auditing is really an accountant or an auditor coming behind and reviewing the work, right?
So someone
it's like,
independent.
yeah, it's independent. Okay, so an accountant prepares your books, or whoever prepares your book cannot audit your books. Okay,
You can't take the test and check the test. That's
right, exactly. So you need an independent person to come behind and look at the numbers and say, okay, they're not saying that your financial statements are free of error or free of fraud, but what it basically says is when they would have reviewed your financial statement, they would have said, look, on a material level, meaning overall, it's a good quality financial records, or it's not. And they do it on a sample basis. So based on a sample, they will be able to say, look, these numbers are right, or these numbers are a little off. Again, like I said, it's not promising you that it's totally and 100% correct, but they come in and do samples and say that, okay, these expenses are in the right account, or all of the expenses were recorded or some expenses were missing. And so that's what auditing is. It's coming behind the accountant and checking to ensure that the records are complete
And this
accurate.
is really, really important, to have the proper books and to have audited financials when it comes time to raising money.
Right.
Because when any financial institution or a normal investor comes to look at you, they want to know that your numbers match your narrative. What you're saying with your words, they like what you're saying, but they need to see that in the numbers, and they need to have someone have checked to see it. That's called due diligence. It's a big part of their due diligence.
They want to know that they're going to be able to make that you're going to be able to make money to pay them back.
That's
what
right.
They
That's right.
lent you.
That's right. That's
Or
right.
at least make some kind of profit or
That's right.
interest on their investment. So again, having these reports is very important for investors to look at and to make a decision whether they want to invest in your business or not.
Yeah. You guys, the people at home, you have to remember, investing is not charity. No one gives you their money just because they like you. They want to make a profit. And without having these documents prepared by at some levels, sometimes even CPAs, and those letters that are after their names, people's names are speak to their qualifications. Sometimes you have to have statements prepared by a certain qualified person, audited by one of the big four, like you were saying, for people to trust that everything is as it's supposed to be. So this is probably one of the most important parts of business once you start getting of a certain size.
Right, exactly. I was about to say that because I don't want to frighten away the micro and the mini
No, but
small business persons who are unable to afford audits. There's another level called a review, and sometimes persons who need to go to the bank to get financial statements, they may not necessarily be able to afford an audit, but a review is it's like an audit on a lesser level.
So what would you say is a general good rule of thumb for when it's time to approach you? As soon as you're able to kind of pay VAT is when you should be approaching an accounting firm, or?
I would say from day one, you would want to have an accountant on board to guide you in terms of whether you want to do the cash basis accounting or accrual basis accounting. So from your first transaction, you want to have your books set up properly. You don't want to wait until you a year or two in, and then an accountant have to come behind and clean up. The fee may end up not being what you expect.
Because it's a lot more work.
Because it's a lot more work. So I would say, from your business plan level, involve an accountant and get advice on how you can go about it. And like I said, if you can't afford an accountant, I'm not an advocate for, using the black and white book to record everything, but have some kind of records.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? So that at that level, when you're able to afford an accountant, when your business begin to expand and your business begin to grow, there is some records, okay, that we can go on. So again, I reiterate, depositing all your revenue into the bank, using the bank system, right, to record, to have your records in place, and go from there.
So how can people reach you?
Okay, so you can reach me at 242-427-9001. And you can also send me an email at altamise@missickrussell&co.com.
That was Miss Missick Russell, and we'll see you next time. economy. What's next? Now Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. before the news.